guys, how's it going? Today I thought I'd do something a little bit different. I want to try a music, makeup, get ready with me kind of format for today. That'd be cool to, while I'm doing my makeup, because I have to do something with my hands and talk about the music industry. Welcome to my music and makeup video, which I will be releasing on Monday. It's Music Makeup Monday, yeah! Music, Makeup Monday, all M's, alliteration, yeah. Also, I got the idea from Bailey Sarian, who does Murder Mystery Makeup Monday. So if you're into that kind of thing, you can check it out. But I want to talk about music on this channel. Also, I'll link what I'm using, the products I'm using. Oh, it exploded. Down below in the description, I'll write down what products I'm using in case you're interested. If you like this type of video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel for more videos. And let's get into it. Musicians just don't make as much money as we think they do. Well, some of them. I mean, some of them are like millionaires. But I feel like there's a lot of people in the industry who don't make nearly as much money as like what you think they make. So years ago, when I wanted to like make my own music, which I do, I have an EP out and stuff you guys can find. It's on my YouTube channel like from 2016 or something. But anyway, it was this really cool article I found that was really really inspirational about how I made it in the music industry. My top 10 tips. It's a really good article. I recommend reading it. I think it's cool. It's from Kelly Mays. Like 10 years ago, she had this thing where you could Google female rapper on like YouTube or just in Google in general, and she was like one of the top search result at the time. I'm putting on my makeup primer if you're wondering what I'm doing on what I'm putting on my face. And it was really interesting because she decided that she wanted to be an independent musician and not be signed to a record label. She's an unsigned rapper and singer from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Oh my gosh, words are hard. What's going on today? There was a talk about female hip-hop artists who were failing in the music industry. And so she quotes an article about recording contracts, which I'll link these articles in the description below too, because I think they're really interesting. It's about how 95% of signed artists fail. I'm like, what? 95%? Like, there's a lot of people who are signed artists in the industry who like you've probably never even heard of. In her opinion, you'll have a better success rate if you release your music independently. Artists have like a 5% success rate when they sign, but that's just crazy to me because that's awful. As a musician, you're getting signed and you think like, yeah, I'm gonna make it big, and then you just like don't, and you sign away like your creative rights and everything else that's in a record deal. So then I was wondering like, well, why are they failing? Are they just not good musicians? I mean, I've got to think they had some talent if, you know, they're being signed to a label. Like the label must have thought like, oh, you got talent, we're gonna, you know, put you in our recording contract, you'll be one of our bands we have, you know, that we record. So we have this preconceived notion that these artists are really make a lot of money and are famous, are doing great, and like, yeah, be a musician because you're a celebrity and your songs are on the radio and you're a billionaire or millionaire and you can buy expensive things and fancy cars and all this stuff. And I don't know. Let's fall down the rabbit hole. You ready? First, let's start with Ace Hood. So Ace Hood, pretty popular rapper, he signed his first record deal at age 17, and he really didn't plan financially for like what was going to happen next with his career. So he like spent lots of money on an Escalade, which I looked it up now. He leased it, but to buy one at the time it's like a $76,000 car. So like it's not cheap to lease one of these expensive cars. And he even like decked it out. It says how he was renting a 3-bedroom condo in South Florida. He did that, you know, but he's a rapper. He's making lots of money. He probably figures, oh, it's never going to end. I have all this money. And then he says how he went to the Gucci store a lot, was spending like $1,500, $2,000 every time, going to the store, splurging, you know, buying whatever he wants to buy, having a good time. And at the time, his record was doing great. Well, then, as with a lot of things in life, it slowly comes to an end. It doesn't last forever. His second album wasn't doing as well in 2009 because provided this article is like, you know, 10 years old or so, he was spending more than he was bringing in. And I think that's true for a lot of us. When you get used to a certain type of income and you kind of think like this is how things are gonna be, you adjust accordingly, whether you make a lot of money or a little money. Anyway, he was starting to run low on money because the second record isn't doing as well, but you know, I would think I mean, I could see how you'd have this assumption that, oh, the first album did great, the second one is gonna do great too, because all these fans who love my first one are gonna love my second one, and then I'll gain more fans. You think it's like a steady incline of success, like you're here, and I'm just gonna slowly increase all the time. But it's not like that at all. You just go up, you go down, you go up, you go down, up, down. It's more like that kind of emotion. His second album didn't live up to the expectations, and he was just spending way more money than he was bringing in. And he lost like his car, apartment, some of his friends, his career wasn't doing too well. And now he talks about like how he's starting to save money now. In this article he says, if I make $100,000 per month, which that's a lot of money, man. $100,000 a month, whew. And he saves at least $60,000, which I think is really smart, because he's not going to be producing albums all the time. You can't rely on getting all that money all the time. You know, he says you might want to save for rainy days, and I think that's true. We all got to do that. But I think it's crazy. Oh, and also, I gotta explain, he also replaced his car he was leasing with a Camaro, a Chevy Camaro, which those aren't nearly as expensive as like the Escalade. I guess you just assume that these rappers who were really popular, and they even sang a song about a Bugatti or something, or he did a song about a Bugatti and like driving or owning a Bugatti. I feel like we expect these rappers who are musicians who are really popular to be able to own like fancy cars, and they're millionaires, and they just are making all this money all the time, having a great life, chilling, not a care in the world. Their songs are on the radio. They're selling mixtapes like hotcakes. Do people use that phrase anymore? Like hotcakes? I don't know. And maybe, you can assume he was just making bad financial decisions, which I think is true, because you're splurging all this money and you're not really thinking about like the future and stuff. But I feel like there's this assumption that it's just always pouring in. It's make it rain, So then I looked up another musician or another band, and you know the band TLC? I don't want no scrub. Scrub is a guy, can't get no love from me. Those people? Well, according to some articles, that was when they that song was popping. It was like all over the radio and all this stuff. Well, their record deal, according to an article I read, well, there were two articles. One article I read said a different amount than this one, but anyway, according to a couple that I found, they were making like $35,000 per year. $35,000 each a year? I mean, I'm guessing it's each, because I hope it's not for the whole band, because like they're splitting that between the whole band. Like, you're under the poverty line basically. And they're like popular musicians. They're singing about No Scrubs, which like was a huge song. It's like in the 90s or early 2000s. I mean, that was a big song, and they're making $35,000. What? I just think that's ridiculous. And apparently it's because of their record contract. I don't know what their record contract stated, but I don't think it was good. Which I would think when you're signing for these record contracts, you would kind of like look into some of this stuff. Like, all that money's going somewhere. I mean, it's not going to the artists. Yeah, according to this article, TLC has sold over 65 million records worldwide, yet they've had to file for bankruptcy twice. That's just crazy. Like they told The Guardian, it was Tion T-Boz Watkins, I will never forget the day we were millionaires for literally 5 minutes. Like, you would think they'd be millionaires for more than 5 minutes. That's just crazy. And it begs the question, who's taking all the money? So according to another article, TLC signed a contract that not only pays their management like a huge cut of their money, but it also required them to pay for their expenses, and they had like no ownership for what they produce. That's an awful record label deal. Like, I don't know why they signed that. Is that all they could get at the time? I don't know. And I don't know under what circumstances they signed. I mean, this was obviously before they made it big. Maybe they just weren't as popular. But that's a terrible record contract. That management took too large a cut of their money and required them to pay the bill for all their expenses, and they had like no ownership over what they produced. Apparently, some people claim they were heavy spenders, but I don't know, $35,000, you can buy like a car, a not used car. You can't buy a house, at least not where I'm at, for that much. So anyway, then there was another band, which I never heard of, but I like their name, Unlocking the Truth. And their story was kind of interesting. It was a child metal band out of Brooklyn. They signed a deal with Sony in 2015 or 2016, I think it was. Their deal with Sony promised them $1.7 million, but only if they can sell 250,000 CDs. Records, 250,000 records, which is a lot. I don't think they were able to do that. And so because of their record with Sony, they were $60,000 in debt to the record label at the time of this article, which I'll link below. Then they had attorneys who were trying to get them out of their record deal. So that's a bummer. Like, you're these kids playing in this cool band with a cool name, and you're just trying to get out of your record deal now. Okay, I gotta do my eyebrows, but I'm gonna do it off camera because I don't think this is gonna work very well on camera. Give me a second. Eyebrows done. We can move on with the story. Okay, so then I found another article about Little Richard and Chuck Berry, or more about Little Richard. You know that song, Tutti Frutti, en route, Tutti Frutti, en route. It's from 1955. If you don't know it, that's okay. No judgment here. But Little Richard did the song from 1955. It was a massive hit, and he paid only Richard like $50 for the song. Just crazy. So that was in 1955. Based on inflation, that's still only like $500 that Little Richard made off this song. $500 for a hit song. That's like nothing, okay? $500 for singing Tutti Frutti. But looks like these record labels probably been taking a lot of money from artists for a long time now. A long time. But yeah, so he paid him $50 for the publishing rights to the song, so only $50, and gave him a half cent for each record sold. A half cent. So if he sold 2 albums, he made 1 penny. 1 penny for 2 albums. What? That's crazy. For each record sold. So that's not good. I thought that was interesting. So it's like, okay, so it begs a question, at least in my opinion, what are record labels actually paying artists? It looks like it's different for a lot of people. I mean, it depends on your contract, obviously. And then there were some people online who were saying like what their take on it. You get 10 to 25%. It just depends on when you sign with a record label or when you make a record deal. 13% of the retail price split among a band or producer. So people all have their they all have their ideas for how much each of these musicians make percentage wise, and honestly I think it just depends on what your contract is. So it just depends. And also another thing is that a label can decide to shelve your music. So if you're working on something, whatever it happens to be, and the label for whatever reason decides, nah, we're gonna take a break, we're not gonna record you anymore, they can do that, which really sucks. Because you sign this record label, you think you're gonna make it big or big enough or whatever, and then they're like, we're just gonna shelve your music now because we can. So there's that. Also, when you sign a record label, which I learned this like a couple weeks ago, I had no idea, is that when you sign a record label contract, let's say for instance you sign a $500 recording contract with a label, whatever label it is, let's say it's $500. And so that money goes towards your albums, whatever you sign, whatever your contract is, whether it's X amount of albums or your first year or just whatever your contract is. That $500,000 goes toward your album. It goes toward the marketing of your album. It goes toward any music videos you have. It goes toward all that. You don't get $500,000. You get nothing. But basically the label is kind of like your backer. They back the band. They invest in you, and they, want to make some money off you. They invest. We're signing this contract. That's what the money goes toward. So you make nothing up front. You make nothing. And then they can decide to shelve your album and decide to be like, we're not going to work on your album. I don't think that happens right away, but who knows? So many artists who sign with contracts. Artists can make money, you can make money from merchandise, being an influencer, all that kind of stuff too. But for your music itself, just the music, just the audio you're listening to, you can make money off of records or from playing live. If you're just talking strictly the music, that's what you're doing. You're making it that way. Back in the day, you would sell albums, physical hard copy albums. Here's my album, hard copy. Stick it in your, whether it's vinyl or even a cassette, anything physical, a physical copy of your music. And that's how a lot of them would sell their records, but now, or sell their music or EPs or whatever, they were physical copies. Now streaming makes up, streaming, Spotify streaming, listen to music on, iTunes, whatever. Streaming makes up 75% of the industry revenue. From like music, listening to songs, 75% of it is from streaming websites or online streaming. 3 major music labels make $19 million a day from streaming, while artists count their pocket change. Puppet on a string, you play the music, they make all the money, and nothing you can do about it, basically. And do you guys remember when Taylor Swift, it was like a number of years ago, Taylor Swift got real upset with all of this, and she I think she threatened to pull her music. Yeah, she removed all her music from streaming devices because in protest of the small percentage that artists were receiving. She did end her boycott only after platforms like Apple Music and stuff made concessions to pay artists for plays during free trial periods. And it's also difficult for unsigned independent artists. Good luck. I'm going for basic look today, guys. Basic makeup, please. Popular cellist and composer Zoe Keating, she had 2.25 million streaming plays of her music on Spotify, which, that's a lot. She only got about like $12,200, which, you'd think $12,000 is still a lot of money, but for 2 million plays on Spotify, you need 2.2 million plays to get $12,200. And I guess it was even after she got a raise. Payout per play was more at the time of this. That means it was less before. What? These companies are making all this money and they're giving artists barely anything. To be fair, they're the ones with all the money and all the power, but they would have nothing if it wasn't for these musicians. And then I found this interesting thing about the US sales database. So it shows how, in the 1970s, people were buying, cassettes, 8-tracks, vinyls, physical hard copies of things. And it was that way. And then 90s, early 2000s, that's when CDs were the new big thing. Everyone was buying CDs. They were selling so many CDs. Not so much singles, CD singles, but they were selling lots of CDs. Everyone was buying the CDs. Even then, if you're making $1 or $2 per album or whatever your percentage is, at least you're making something. To only get pennies on the dollar for a stream, so maybe you're making only pennies of $1 each time everyone listens to your album compared to buying your album. That's just not much. And nowadays that's what people are doing. You're not really, raise your hand. How many of us have bought a CD in the past 5 years? I know I haven't because of YouTube, and I know I don't use Spotify, but I know a lot of people who love Spotify and they don't buy albums. They listen to Spotify. They listen to iTunes Music. You download. You pay for a digital download. You're not buying CDs. I remember a couple years ago, I went to Target to buy a CD for someone for a Christmas present. And there were no CDs except for Taylor Swift, because Taylor Swift's everywhere. Albums of bands who are famous, maybe not as famous as Taylor Swift, but they're still very famous. You can't get their music at Target. I remember when even grocery stores, they used to have a lot of albums, which I know vinyl, I think vinyl's making a comeback, a little bit of a comeback, not a whole lot of a comeback, but a little bit of a comeback. You don't buy physical copies of music anymore. You just listen to it online, which that's so convenient, so why wouldn't you? But artists just aren't making as much money if you're making pennies on the dollar compared to what you were doing before, which was dollars on an album. But you can just see the CDs are in orange. That's what everyone was buying then. So anyway, so now you can see a shift from the 2000s, 2000, what is this, 2008, 2007, 2008, 2006, 2005 is where it looked like it jumped. People were downloading singles, downloading albums, ringtones, ringbacks, and 2014, 2015, you start to see more of a jump towards the paid subscriptions, streaming Apple Music, Spotify, paid subscription services where you can listen to music whenever you feel like it. My computer doesn't have a way to input CDs, so clearly they know CDs just aren't selling. Something else that these articles don't mention, but that I know is a fact, is that you also are paying your managers. So whoever your manager is, who manages the band or the artist or whatever, and gets you all the super cool gigs, gets you opportunities to play at events, gets you maybe even your record contract, you got to pay them a cut. Because they all want a cut of the pie, and you're the pie. So your label takes a cut, and your managers take a cut. Earlier, I mentioned the idea of, let's say you were in a $500,000 recording contract, right? Let's say that's it. $500,000 recording contract, like we did earlier. Let's say you sell, based on your CDs and your live performances, let's say you bring in $2,500,000, just for the sake of like keeping it simple. That's a lot of money and a lot of albums, and a lot of times you play live, because it also depends on if you're not the opening band and you're like touring with a band or whatever, you're gonna get whatever that cut is of you from playing live. That's what you're gonna get. The label is automatically gonna take out that $500,000. So now you have $2 million, okay? But then let's say the label, which I don't think this is unheard of, the label says we're gonna take 50% of everything you make, or everything you receive. 50%. So you're at $2 million already, right? Because you paid him back the $500,000. So now half of $2 million is $1 million. So you have $1 million. But now you have your manager or managers. Let's say there's multiple, because you never know. You could have multiple managers who are like, whoa. My cut, it's my turn. So let's say, it looks like it can be any amount. It could be 40%, it could be 20%, it could be 50%. For the sake of argument, I kind of want to say 50%, because I don't think that's unheard of. So if you're a big name band and you're getting like all these cool opportunities, I don't think it's too unheard of to say 50%. So that means your manager is taking $500,000 out of your million. So you have $500,000 left. But wait, there's more. So you're at $500,000, right? But if you're in a band, I don't know how many band members you have. If you're a solo artist, cool. But if you're a band, you have like 3, 5, 6, 2, however many members are in your band or duo or quartet or whatever group it is that you're in. Then you guys get to divide that money amongst yourselves. So let's say, for the sake of argument, you're a band. There's 5 of you in the band, right? You're at $500,000. You each get $100,000. So for that year, being a super famous, or whatever level of fame you have, musician, from playing live shows and selling albums and having your music on Spotify and a YouTube channel, and you have music videos, you did all this marketing, and for whatever reason, you each get $100,000 for that year. $100,000. Think about that for a second. Now, I will agree, 100,000, that's still a lot of money. If you make that much, you're doing, you're not bad. You're not doing too bad. You're doing pretty well in life. You got $100,000 in a year. Not gonna lie, that's a lot of money. But you expect these musicians who are like famous and they have like tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands or millions of followers, or music's on the CD, or not the CD, music's on the radio, Spotify, all that stuff. Surely you would expect them to make more than $100,000. Do you agree? That's kind of crazy because of all the cuts. So really, I think if you want to make a lot of money in the industry, you need to be like a record label executive, or like even a manager. You can make a lot of money. Just saying, if you're in music for the money, I think you need to reassess your plans and change accordingly. So then after all of this, are record deals worth it? I don't know. I've never signed one. Yeah, I have friends who have, or who have worked with labels, record labels and producers. Oh my gosh, I'm not anywhere near done with my makeup. All I do are my eyes. I'm not doing too well today. Try to work with a producer once, and that was a terrible time. Never doing that again. At least not with that person. I've had friends who have been ripped off by labels. I know of people who they're signed to a record label, but it just doesn't look like they're doing anything that exciting. When you sign with this label, whatever label it is, depending on what it states, which at that point the label has the upper end, they can just, write whatever, and what are you going to do about it? They have all the money. They're the ones who are willing to spend hundreds of thousands of dollars on you and your band because they think it's a good investment. That's kind of like basically what they are. They're not your friends. They're your investors. I think in some cases, the people that work, I would assume, some cases these record label executives are decent people, but at the end of the day, you're their product and they're backing you, and you're there to make money for them. You're there to sell your wares, sell your goods, which is your music. And they have a lot of influence, creative influence over what you say or do. So if that isn't really that important to you, not that it has to be, but if it's not a big deal to you to just be like, well, I don't really care, I just want to make music and be signed by a label, just want to sing, play music and stuff, Because that's a whole nother topic, artists who write their own songs versus those who like, the record label is like, here, sing this song. I don't know, man. I don't know. But I thought this was interesting. In the words of Kanye, when you sign a music deal, you sign away your rights. Without the masters, you can't do anything with your own music. Someone else controls where it's played and when it's played. Artists have nothing except the fame, touring, and merchandise. I'm thinking based on what I've seen, it's looking to be pretty accurate with the money. I don't know if the merchandise is included. I assume the band, based on what I know from people, the band makes whatever money you make for merchandise, that's like what you make. I don't think the label can take that from you, I guess, unless if they're buying your merchandise. It just depends on what your contract says, honestly. Every case is different. And what do you guys think? Would you do it? Is it worth it? Because I think there's a lot of things that a record deal can help you with that you maybe don't have the money for or resources for, like for playing certain events. I know life's more about just money, but I mean, you kind of need it to like pay for things. You need to eat, sleep, get a good night's rest, have some form of transportation. You gotta have something like that. I know it's not all about the money. There are some really cool places, I think, and venues and people you get to meet just because of being with a label and being able to tour and have these experiences that are just amazing. I think that is important too, but you're just not making the money that you would think. For these artists to be like going bankrupt, I feel like that's a whole nother story in of itself, is to talk about artists who are like particular artists who are not doing too hot. It looks like if you want to make a lot of money in the music industry, you need to figure out how to be a record label executive. Same. So that's about it for today's video. I hope you guys found it interesting. I just couldn't believe when I was researching about the industry and how how these record labels are basically taking advantage of artists. I think it's interesting. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Hope you guys like this style of video. My first time doing it. It was kind of fun. Hope you guys liked it. Hope to see it in my next video. Have a good rest of your day, and I'll catch you next time. Bye.